Hey there, everyone. I'm Shanta Jackson, and my purpose in life is to help people to help themselves and others. And thank you for joining me today for this amazing episode with this amazing superwoman. Um, and our topic is going from adversity to triumph. This woman, she is a hometown hero. She was named hometown hero by the Baltimore Ravens and Cigna recently, and she gives to her community. She gives herself just freely. She gives herself, and she volunteers and she donates, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But it's amazing to me how she's able to give herself to others and to volunteer her time, even though she is currently battling a variety of health issues, including a uncurable brain disease, and she has experienced childhood trauma, which includes rape, and then as an adult she experienced homelessness. And from all of that, she went from homelessness and she made herself to and she managed to make it to the White House, and she volunteered for the White House for a few terms with the Obama administration. And so we'll have the opportunity to talk to her about that. Everyone, please welcome Baltimore's hometown hero, Val Jenkins.
Everyone. So you were about to make me cry. As much as I heard that story, my own story, had to control my tears on that, because sometimes I amaze myself. So I want to start off with thanking you for allowing me on your platform to tell my story to the world. And as you mentioned, your mission, most people don't know the purpose of life. Most people don't have a mission for their future. I read Purpose Driven Life, one of my number one book by Rick Warren, probably like 15 years ago, I want to say. And I've learned that my purpose of life was to help others. Then I started helping, and not always volunteer, but I extended myself way more than I should have, and I burnt myself out. Then I reread the book and realized my purpose in life is to help others. But my purpose in life is not to be used by others. So basically, you had to learn the difference of when to say yes and when to say no.
Yes, that's right. You set boundaries for yourself. You know when to step up, you know when to step back. And I always talk about this. There's this book that I read by a famed psychiatrist. Her name is Amy Morin, and it's 13 Things Emotionally Strong People Don't Do. And then she has like a series of books, and one is 13 Things Emotionally Strong Women Don't Do. And one of the things that she talks about is that you're not being a people pleaser. And so you're not putting yourself in situations again to where you're putting yourself in jeopardy as far as your stress levels, or you're uncomfortable, or you're not safe, or you're just giving so much of your time that you don't have time for yourself, and yourself meaning your family, your creativity, your personal endeavors, even your own career sometimes. So relationships and people can make or break you. And I know that one of your sayings is, if you can't change your friends, change your friends.
Yes, I love that quote. And I honestly just used that quote last night as I was introducing my Facebook family to you. Our brief conversation last night blown me away. And I try to be a leisure, what I say, or a to the people that I see doing good, regardless of their age or their background, because sometimes we tell children to mind your business and stay out of adults' conversation, but sometimes it's the children who can change your life. And a perfect example is I spoke at Carver High School one year, and I'm in there telling the all girls class on how to be careful of these young boys, on how they will use you for drugs and sex, and I'm going on and on. And one young lady Googled me, and she called me out, and she told me that I was no different than anyone else that lied to her. And of course, the adults in there was trying to hush her up. And I said, no, let her speak because we don't allow these children to speak. So when she Googled me, she found a picture of me with a cigar. And she said, you in here telling us not to smoke, but you're smoking. And I let her finish. And I said, first, I'm an adult, and there's a way you say things. I said, but you're absolutely right. I said, even though cigars is not a illegal drug, it's still smoking. And I could promise you, you'll never see a cigar in my mouth again. This been almost 3 years, and I've never smoked a cigar again. And every time someone offered me one, I see this little girl's face. So it was that child who changed my life.
Thank you for that. And so, for everyone that's watching, we are streaming live on Facebook and YouTube. And please do comment and ask your questions in the chat box. And I see that Elisa Howard in Las Vegas has checked in, and she's watching on YouTube. And she says, absolutely, I love that. My purpose is not to be used by others. So thank you so much, Elisa, for commenting. So Val, tell the world about you. Tell us who you are. And then I'll step back, allow you to introduce yourself, and then I'll follow up with a few questions.
So my name again is Val Jenkins. I am the youngest of 6 girls on my mother's side and the youngest of 5 billion on my father's side. I came from Park Heights, and at one point in my life, I was ashamed to say I came from Park Heights. When I travel, people say, where are you from? And I wouldn't say Park Heights from Baltimore. I would say Park Heights, California. Because when people mention Baltimore, the first thing they think of is the wire or the corner or drugs or murders. But then I had to step back and realize how many powerful people is from Park Heights and Baltimore, local here. And I am proud to say my name is Val Jenkins, and I am from Park Heights, Baltimore, Maryland. So from there, grew up, to me, and everyone have a different story. My story is I grew up, I was bullied in school. My mother, being a single mother of 6 girls, did her very best to raise us, but I was still bullied. I was bullied because they called me the dirty girl in school. I had the same clothes on, or I wore my older sister's clothes. That's not saying nothing negative about my mother, but this is my life. So what happened was I ended up beating up 2 of the school bullies. And what happened, if you know anything about bullying, bullies been bullied. So when I beat up the school bullies, I became the bully. And all the people who called me the dirty girl and teased me and nappy head, they all wanted to be my friends. And my head got big. I became the bully. And then Park Heights, I tell the same story. 10 years old, 10, 11 years old, this one young guy, I thought he was way younger than I. He wanted to come to my parties. Why was I having house parties at that young? I had no idea. And I threw rocks at him and told him, little boy, go home. You would never come to my parties. And he turned around and said, when I grow up, I will give the biggest parties in Park Heights and you're not invited. Well, now, 500 years later, that young boy is now my best friend. And he not only give parties, the biggest parties in Baltimore, he give the Park Heights reunion, but he give parties all over the world. And we laugh about it, and we share our stories on how he overcame being bullied by a female, and he's not ashamed to say it. But because I bullied him about going to a party, he thrived to be able to do his own parties. And we are now best friends. But then it was another young lady who I bullied. And it ate me up so bad that I bullied this girl. Every time I hear the word bully, I see her face. And I haven't seen her since I was like 8, 9 years old. I see her face. I could tell you everything she had on. I could tell you how she wore her hair. I could tell you everything about this girl. And when I go to these different schools and I talk about one, being bullied and being a bully, I let people know that I beat this little girl's her flesh. But guess what? She won because she beat up my mind. I cannot get her out of my mind. So she beat. So it's not all about the flesh. And before social media, I had to find her. I wanted to publicly apologize to her because I publicly assaulted her. I did find her like 2 years ago via Facebook. I sent her a message and I said, "Is your name da 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 da?" And she said, "Yes, what do you want?" At that point, I realized I did my part to locate her, to apologize, but I left it alone and the story was done because it proved to me that this girl is not healed. And I did not want to open up no more open wounds. So we have to be careful on how we handle other people. So from there, we struggled. I never been homeless living under the bridge. But if you don't have an address, you're considered as homeless. And my mother went from house to house to house, which made me go to school to school to school. So we overcame that. I struggled. I had health issues my whole entire life. Nobody believed me. Nobody. My mother, my father, the doctors, the teachers, no one believed me of the pain that I had in my body. So I'm a fast forward to some subjects I have to go back and come forward with. So I just continue on struggling. I always volunteer. I always volunteer. Um, for some reason, it just made me feel so good when I helped somebody else. Even
Okay.
before I really knew what volunteering was, it just made me feel so good to help others. Um, I have a daughter
I'm actually
who,
I'm going to pause for a second.
okay,
So let's rewind. You talked about bullying in your childhood,
okay,
and you were both the victim and the perpetrator
right,
for bullying. And then also so I'm taking through the timeline,
okay, okay,
and so in addition to being bullying, you expressed to me that you were raped 3 times before the age of 15.
yes.
Could you just briefly tell me about that experience and how that impacts you today as an adult?
Well, as you said, I was raped 3 times before I was 15. 2 of the times I blamed myself because was I in the right place? I'm at the wrong place at the wrong time because I ain't had no business being out the house, first of all. So I always blamed myself for that. I've never told anyone as a child that this happened to me either time. The third time I got raped, I was actually in my father's house and he was home. My father was a drug dealer, a big drug dealer. And all the kids he had back in the day, and I don't know if they do it now or call it the same, it was boosters. Booster was people who steal clothes. Because I was so small as a child, the boosters could never bring clothes that fit me, but always could fit my sister. This one man who was my father's friend came to the house and said, "I have clothes that could fit her." My father said, "Well, go upstairs and see if you could fit the clothes." So I went upstairs to see if I could fit the clothes, and the man came up. Of course, my father didn't know. He came up and he raped me. And as he was raping me, he told me if I ever say anything, he's going to send my father back to jail. Of course, I don't want my father to go to jail. So my father never knew that this man raped me. No one never knew that I've been raped 3 times. Um, the first person I told was my daughter's father. Why I told him that, I don't know. At that point, it's your daughter's father. You think he's the closest person to you other than your mother. I never told my mother because I didn't want my mother to feel like she was at fault for these situations. Second person I told was my now ex-husband. They was the only people that I ever told in my whole entire life. 2 years ago, this happened when I was 15 and before. 2 years ago was the first time I looked at the first house. I ride up and down the street probably every week, not as much because I don't live in the area in the city no more. But 2 years ago was the first time I looked at that house. And when I looked at that house, it was like a tractor trailer just came off of me. It was ironic how this happened. 2 weeks after that, I was at the mall. I was walking in the mall, and a guy walked past me, and we both turned around and looked at each other. And I said, "Do you know who I am?" And he said, "I do, and I apologize." And we just kept moving. And when I got in that mall, I just stood there as if, did this just happen? I should have said this. I should have did this. But I felt a sense of peace. And I just felt as though those 2 times was the time that God said, move on with your life. And after that situation happened, I started telling the world. I told my mother. My mother was like, why didn't you tell me this? I don't know. I can't go back and why I didn't or why I did something. It happened and I felt so more peaceful. Then I realized how many people I could have saved if I told my story. The third person, I never seen him a day in my life after that situation.
And how did that impact you, like your dating life and growing up, and then you're a mother, you have a daughter. How did those situations impact you individually, your relationships, and just your relationship or the advice or your parenting style for your daughter?
I honestly don't know if it affected me or not. I don't. I don't. And if it haven't came to me yet. Because sometimes it takes years for it to hit you. That's why I do this, or that's why I do that, or that's why I'm afraid of something. So I'm not going to say it didn't faze me, but I don't think I lived in that dark circle of I'm not going to think because this person did this. And I never treated my daughter so close, thinking that somebody might have done that to her. So I honestly don't even know how to answer that yet. It haven't came to me yet.
Have you ever sought counseling or therapy?
I've never received counseling for that. I did go to a therapist one time in my whole life. And listen, when I left that therapist's office, I think the therapist went to therapy because she was like, how do you live with all this? And I felt like I would never, ever tell somebody not to go to therapy. But my personal therapy, I'm a talker. So every time I left the therapist, I went to this office probably 3 times altogether, 3 times. And each time I left that office, I found me calling my girlfriend, telling them exactly what happened. So why did I pay this therapist? So I'm not telling anyone in the world, and I would never tell anyone in the world not to go to therapy. But my personal life, I'm a talker. And you know who my therapist is? When I go to Walmart and go to the market and go to public places, because I'm going to eventually talk to some stranger, which a therapist is some stranger. And we're going to talk about something. And that's going to be, I can't worry about them telling my business because they know them. So what they tell their friends? Their friends don't know me. So that's my therapy.
And that's interesting because I have never had a therapy session either. I've never had a therapy session, and I found a way to self-motivate myself, and then I practice self-therapy through journaling. I'm not opposed to seeing a therapist, and I've actually served as a guest on multiple podcasts of professional counselors and therapists, and I've had professional counselors and therapists as a guest on my show as well. And so actually those conversations were pretty much sometimes live counseling sessions, especially when I serve as a guest on their platform.
Right.
But one thing that I do is journal. And of course, journaling can prompt someone into seeking professional help. But that's one of the things that I talk about. Well, my book is a guided journal, and I actually have prompts. And so that for those of you who have my book, and I think you understand where I'm coming from, but you can see like that was my form of, my form of therapy. So I actually write a lot. And then like you, I have conversations with individuals. So I'm not opposed to seeing a professional therapist or counselor. I just haven't. However, I have decided that when it's time for me to be in a committed relationship, or it's time for me to get married, I am going to seek therapy. And I actually want my partner, I want us to have therapy together. Not that, just to start off right. So I want to do,
I love that.
I want to do the premarital counseling, but I want it to be with, I want to do two different individuals. I want a person of faith, someone that has like a spiritual point of view. And so that way we can have that type of counseling. But then I want someone that where if they're just objective and it's non-spiritual, more so like finances and our expectations, any past traumas, any issues with trust and what we expect. And because I think it's important to establish a foundation from the beginning, because a lot of people actually get divorced over petty stuff, such as family members staying too long or the dog. But it's like little things that it escalates into something else and something else. But if you would have had that conversation beforehand, you probably wouldn't be having these issues, credit and your health history and all that stuff. So the entire time we digress and we're talking, it's an open conversation. So forgive me, audience, so we digress. But so you're going through, you have these different childhood experiences, you're growing up, and you're saying that your experience, it didn't, in your opinion, it did not negatively affect your parenting style with your daughter.
My daughter and I are very, very close. We are very close. We talk about anything and everything. But no matter how good or not so good a parent you are, you never know how your child is going to be affected. And I tried my best to be the best parent that I can. And I lived off of the things as a child. And some people call it living vicariously through your child. I'm going to give them this because I didn't have that. I'm going to do this because I didn't have that. And as close as my daughter and I relationship is, she just told me last year that my life of dating affected her. Because I became, in my life of dating, became a runner. But I never agreed with people keeping that lifestyle and that love away from their children, because I've been hurt and I've hurt you. So I wanted her to see the difference of how you love and to be loved. So, my daughter actually, she go to therapy and she's proud of it. She's proud of it. So when I said in the beginning, just because I went through what I went through, it didn't make my mother a bad mother. Or because I went through what I went through didn't make me a bad mother. We just live different styles. And my daughter and I talk about everything. We talk about everything. And she's now a mother. So now the things that she said she saw and affected her, I believe she's at her stage of going through it with her daughter. So it's a family history of going through it. Who's going to break that? So the family trauma, it was my goal to be the first one to be a homeowner or a business owner. I strive for those things.
Okay. And so the entire time you're growing up, and even now, you also you have a rare brain disease.
Yes.
And but you didn't find out about this until your adulthood. So you're in your childhood, you're experiencing. So from my understanding, your brain sends various different messages to your body, such as we're not going to no eyesight today, or remove your arm, or you're in pain today. So these different things. And so in your childhood, you're growing up. And as you mentioned earlier, people didn't believe you. They thought that you were, saying different things. So how did you find out that you had this brain disease? And tell us a little bit about the disease.
So the first time, as I reflect back to my life, the first time I could think of somebody should have noticed something was when my teacher called my mother and told her I couldn't read. And that's on these people who's listening to this. Stop and listen to your children. The teacher told my mother I couldn't read, but I won every spelling bee in elementary. That just didn't make sense. My mother took about this. One, they gave me bifocals. Everyone teased me, as they was already teasing me before the bifocals. So now the bifocals give them something else to tease me about. But every time I wore the glasses, I would get these terrible headaches. No one would believe me. Then I used to fall all the time. The wild thing is I used to fall up the steps. And I was like, my mother used to say, sit your clumsy self down. I can't help from falling up the steps. Then my nose used to bleed all the time. Then I would vomit all the time. Then they told my mother at 12 years old, I had ulcers. What am I worrying about at 12 years old? So my whole life, I was in and out the hospital. 3 years in a row, I'm in the hospital because I couldn't swallow nothing. All these signs, as I look back, somebody should have figured out something. Well, guess what? I guess it got to the point where I would be at work when I'd be around people, and I was in so much pain that I wouldn't even talk to nobody. But it got to the point where I was tired of complaining. One day my leg hurt, then my arm hurt, then my neck hurt, then this hurt, then that. I got tired of complaining, and I became frustrated. So I guess God was like, look, let me open the world's eyes to see that this is what you're going through. The Tuesday, the day after Labor Day, 11 years, my house burned down.
Wait, repeat that. You froze a little bit. You said 7 years after Labor Day.
No, the day after Labor Day,
Okay.
11 years ago, my house burned down. The walls exploded in my face, and I fell and hit my head. 6 months after that, I was diagnosed with this brain disease that I was born with. It took the fire to get people to figure out something is wrong with her. The year later, one day after Labor Day, I had brain surgery. 2 weeks after I got out of the hospital from the brain surgery, I was back in the hospital, my face completely twisted, and I lost my eyesight. I was diagnosed as the first person in Johns Hopkins history with 3 neurology, I think I pronounced that word wrong, diseases. So at that point, they diagnosed me with Chiari malformation, Bell's palsy, and dystonia. So what the doctors told me, and I never heard of neither one of these diseases, having Bell's palsy and dystonia is like going up the steps and going down the steps at the same time. You just can't have it. So one side of my face was going down when the other side was going up. One of my eyes, I couldn't blink at all. The other one, I couldn't see out of. But the wild thing was it would switch. So then my face would go the other way, and the other eye, I couldn't blink, and the other one, I couldn't see out of. So going on and on and on, here come another disease. Then here come another disease they diagnosed me with. Then I got hit with spasticity, another rare disease I never heard of. Well, spasticity, if anyone follow my page or need to see it, I will send you the videos. My limbs completely spins, like my limbs literally, I had this shirt on, my limbs completely spins around. My arms, my feet, my face twist. If I'm not holding on something, I will literally flip over if it happened in my back. I have absolutely no control of this disease. If anyone remember Big Bird, the man who played Big Bird, he died of dystonia. And that's when people start knowing what this disease is. So as of today, I was diagnosed with 8 different diseases that stems from the one brain disease. As of September the 15th that just passed, I was hospitalized again with nothing to do with those diseases. They found 3 large masses in my stomach. I should have been in the hospital as we speak, but because I'm allergic to all medications, they could not do the surgery right then and there. They scheduled the surgery, and as of last week, they diagnosed me with a flesh-eating disease, a flesh-eating bacteria that's in my stomach, another rare disease. But that's not stopping me from being in the community to go out and help. Matter of fact, after this, I'm going out in the community to give away free food and supplies.
Thank you, Val. Thank you for sharing that. And anyone in the audience, if you have any immediate reactions, please do comment. And for me, it's just, the things that we complain about, and, just like listening to your story and then stories of others. It's you get to really see, not that you're not fortunate, or not that you're not blessed, because you definitely are, but you understand, like, okay, you know what, I'm grateful for me to be able to, like you said, just to be able to sit and stand and sit up, and not to have any conditions. So just thank you for that. And I was talking to my cousin, and I was telling her that I was interviewing you, and I told her that you don't pray. And I said, but I don't think she's not praying because she doesn't have faith. I think she's not praying because she has faith. So could you speak to us about that?
So as a child, I don't recall going to church. Going to church to me was they giving away free food. Let's go and get one of those brown boxes. That's really showing how old I am when they was giving away free food, sandwiches and milk in them brown boxes. That was my recollection of going to church. I grew up with my daughter's father being church hurt. Someone didn't want us there because we was living together and not married. Well, why didn't you? We was young. We was doing our best. Like, how about you coming to us instead of spreading this rumor as an old senior citizen or hurting the whole entire church? Then going to church, I was liking that feeling of going to church. Then I started going to Empowerment Temple, which really changed my life. Really changed my life for the best. It taught me so much going to that church. I met so many different people. But going to that church is when I really started experiencing so much what most people call trauma, hurt, and pain, but it had nothing to do with the church. It was my personal life. So it got to the point where I was crying and yelling and Holy Ghost and running around the floor, and God, why me? Why I can't keep a relationship? Why am I blind? Why am I paralyzed? Why I can't feel my fingers and toes for 3 years? Why am I vomiting everywhere? Why? That's what I was experiencing in church. One day I also do hair. I'm doing a person's hair. First time ever at my salon. She had a little girl with her. First of all, the little girl was about 5 years old, and why was she breastfeeding? That was a whole nother story. So the little girl was, Mommy, can I have some cookies? Mommy, can I have this? Mommy, can I have this? The mother was on the phone the whole time that I was doing her hair. She never responded to the 5-year-old little girl. Then the little girl started patting my leg, which is a no-no. Let's reflect back on being raped. This is it. This is where it hit me. I never even thought about it. The little girl was patting my leg, my thigh. That's a no-no. Maybe that right there affected me. And I said, baby, I'm going to give it to you. Baby, wait a minute. When I get finished doing your hair, stop asking me. Then I got frustrated. You don't hear your daughter begging? She cussed at the little girl. I said, what you're not going to do is cuss at this baby in my house because she asked you nicely. Then it dawned on me while I was doing this girl hair. That's how foolish we sound when we keep asking God over and over and over, why? Can I? Give me? Should I? God birthed us. God allowed all this we going through. He gave us the brain. He gave us this. He gave us that. He gave us everything. So now, when I lost my eyesight, when I deal with spasticity, when a man decides that I'm not the one for him, my response is, thank you. When the doctors diagnosed me with 3 large masses in my stomach, matter of fact, let's go back. When the doctors gave me 6 months to live in October 2013, I said to them doctors, what y'all doing tonight? Y'all want to go and have adult beverage? And they looked at me like, what? What else y'all want me to do? Cry, scream? Then when they asked me, when they told me I had the 3 large mass, I said, thank you. They was like, what? Because guess what? No matter what came out of the 3 large mass, I'm here 7 years after the doctors gave me 6 months to live. So it's not that I don't believe in God. I just thank God. What else is it for me to say to him? Thank you. Thank you for introducing me to you. Thank you for introducing me to people on this podcast that I would have never met from Vegas. Thank you. So that's my only relationship with God. Thank you.
And thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing that and for explaining that, because someone needed to hear that. And I needed to hear it as well. And I just want to check in on YouTube. My mom, my number
Hey,
one,
Mom.
she says good morning. She's watching from Las Vegas. So good morning, ladies. This is a great show. I feel her pain. And this is when you were, I believe this is when you were talking about therapy. I think this is where this comes from. But to Val, I see healing, strength, and peace for your life. I'm praying for you in Jesus' name, amen. So,
Oh, amen.
yeah. And we have Doretha. Doretha is actually in Baltimore. Yay, she caught me live. She watches everything, and she's always so supportive of me. When I say supportive, and this is a total stranger that I met on Instagram. We had one mentor mentee session together, and she's so supportive of me. And I said I owe her a Christmas present. She supports everything that I do. So
I
thank you.
love it.
Thank you
I
for
love
joining in, and congratulations on your new relationship and your status. I'm very happy for you, Doretha. So you mentioned that after you leave here, you're going to volunteer. So tell us a little bit about your nonprofit organization and how it got started, and why you're doing what you're doing.
So Hug Don't Shoot is a nonprofit, and our mission is to bring a sense of peace to every, you notice how I said that, every community, one hug at a time. You'll never hear me say I'm going to help the Black community, the white community, the Jewish, the Muslim. We're out to help every community, one hug at a time. So how the Hug Don't Shoot start? It's an organization that I did not want, nor did I ask for. God, all in my personal business, he threw it at me. I was at a beach in Cancun, Mexico, and a whole adult beverage in my hand, minding my own business. I looked on Facebook and someone in Baltimore was murdered. I made a simple statement. We need to start hugging and stop shooting. Then I said, who want to go out hugging when I go back to Baltimore? Turned my phone off, went and got dressed. I was at a hotel with a group party, Douglas Cologne, Curtis Blow, Roxanne Shante, travel with them every year, every July. So I took myself to the hotel, got dressed, went to the event. I actually won a Phenomenal Woman award that same night for something completely different than Hug Don't Shoot. Came back and 46 people signed up to go out hugging. And I said, y'all, I was only playing though. So then they was like, no, let's do it. So we started talking. I said, we just can't go out there hugging people. I said, maybe if we wear t-shirts. And my niece was like, let's get bright t-shirts. And my other niece was like, let's make big letters on it. So we made a plan on August the 5th, 2017 at 12 p.m. for 4 hours. Anyone that's familiar with Baltimore, we started at Drew Hill Park. We walked down to Northern Pennsylvania. If you're not familiar with Baltimore, y'all will remember the Freddie Gray area. We walked down there. We hugged every single person we came across. One of the hug dealers are volunteers. We deal with hugs, not drugs. Hug dealers asked the bus driver, can we have a hug? He said, no, unless you get on the bus and hug everyone. We got on the bus and we hugged every single person on the bus. When we got off the bus, it was 2 buses behind, and they said, what about our bus? We stopped the traffic. We hugged police officers, drug addicts, drug dealers, and that was our 4 hours. Hug Don't Shoot was done. That Monday, the governor's office called and said, we like what y'all doing. Tuesday, the mayor's office called. We like what you're doing. Wednesday, I was out eating crabs, and someone called me in my Facebook inbox and said my best friend's son was murdered. I said, I'm sorry to hear that. Like, why are you calling me? That's my honest reaction. And she says, I said, I don't work for a church or the police department. I'm confused. She said, we've been watching you. We want to know if you could come and give us hugs. And I'm like, miss, I'm eating crabs right now. I could not eat not one crab. I sent out a text message to about 10 people and said, can y'all go to this house? No one was available. This was eating my soul up. So I asked the girl her address. I sent the address to the 10 people. It was a group text and said, I'm going to this house. I went to the house probably 9 p.m. I didn't know who house I was going to. I didn't know anything. The lady came to me, to my car. She thanked me for coming. I went into the house. The mother of the deceased teenager laid her head right here and cried and cried and cried. And no matter who came in that house, she never moved her head off of my chest. One of the scariest feelings ever. I sat there, I helped them plan a funeral. I told them about different churches, different funeral homes. I emptied my purse out. I gave them every single penny in my purse. I didn't even count it. I left that house from 9 o'clock p.m. probably to 1 o'clock in the morning. When I left there, I made a post on Facebook and said, this shit is real. From there, every single day, somebody was calling me. This person got murdered. This person got murdered. Can you come to the nursing home? Can you speak at our schools? Can you do this? Can you do that? Now, over 3 years later, 1,600 events without one grant, my personal pockets and the community donations, we're now considered as the umbrella of the community, because we don't just go out for anti-violence. Of course, we want all murders to stop, but we do it all. We give out. Ray Lewis just donated a tractor trailer full of gowns and clothes, children clothes to us from Macy's. Amazon, it seemed like every 2 weeks, Amazon is donating shipments of stuff. Stuff. When I say stuff, we never know what they're delivering us. My full-time job, BG&E, is my number one sponsor and supporter. Just did like 2 separate articles on me. How many people corporate business allow you even to wear a shirt to say hug, don't shoot? Now the employees at BG&E can volunteer doing whatever they want and donate the money to my organization. That's how we're surviving. So Hug Don't Shoot is basically, we go to, of course, pandemic. With the pandemic, is just shutting everything down. But now we do virtual hugs. We still go out in the community. We don't touch anyone. We look them in the eye with our mask on, and we still say, may I have a virtual hug after we speak. We do human trafficking, sex trafficking. We connected with Monique, who's the oldest living Jane Doe. She was stolen when she was a child. Get her book, I Am the Ancestor. We connected with Nicole Mosby Taylor, who started an organization, Trauma Advocacy Group. No matter who we are, someone experienced trauma. So now when it's a house explosion, a fire, a shooting, no matter what it is, when we connect with TAG, which is Trauma Advocacy Group, we're able to go underneath of the yellow tapes to go and comfort the family members. This what's going on. So we have collaborated with so many people. I basically walk in City Hall with when I was invited to Annapolis, and when I walked in the door, of course I know who the governor is, but I didn't think he knew who I was. And when I walked in the door, he was like, yeah, I get my hugs today. So it's such an amazing feeling of something what I call a mistake. So Hug Don't Shoot, just last week, I won the first nonprofit ever from the Baltimore Ravens and Cigna. So it has its blessings. It's breaking my pockets, but it's so many blessings. I have so many people who call me who's suicidal, who just the first time I got frustrated and wanted to stop Hug Don't Shoot. I was out, I didn't have nothing on that says Hug Don't Shoot. It was just a normal day. And this young lady came to me and she said, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I was like, for what? I was like, what did I just do? And she said, 2 weeks ago, I was at an event and you gave me a hug. I said, oh, girl, why be doing stuff like that? And she said, I was about to kill myself that day. What? She said, I was so suicidal that day. And I feel like I want to cry right now, y'all. Sorry. She said, I was so suicidal that day. And when you gave me a hug, you let me know that people do care. I went in the bathroom and I cried and cried. And when I came out, people saw that I was crying, but it was the, it was like I felt like a whole ghost. Like I felt like, did this just happen? Did this happen in real life? This was a day I was frustrated and wanted to shut this organization down. So you never know what somebody's going through. So the wild thing is, as I've mentioned, 11 years ago, my house exploded. Just about 4 months ago, Rice's, anybody familiar with Baltimore, Ricestown Road had the biggest gas explosion in Baltimore history, I want to say. Hug, Don't Shoot not only was there for them, but I was honored to be able to plan the funeral of the 21-year-old Joseph Graham who lost his life in that house explosion. I was able with the community to pay for the repast. Yes, they had donations, but it felt so good that that family who lost their 21-year-old son and nephew allowed Hug, Don't Shoot to plan this funeral. But guess what? Since that since that funeral and that explosion, every single one of the family members are now hug dealers. They come out to all our events. So you never know who life you're going to change. The day after the funeral, one of the aunts, Christy Levy, said to me, sent me a message and said, how can I change Baltimore's life? Like Hug, Don't Shoot changed my family's life.
Thank you, Val. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in and for watching. I know you have some things to do. I appreciate your time. I'm glad that we connected. We're a part of an initiative being funded by Baltimore City Health Department, and you're doing a lot of work in 21217 area code. And my colleague and I, and especially Shalita O'Neill, she's had the opportunity to provide support to Hug, Don't Shoot, and we've had the opportunity to support other nonprofit organizations within that community in 21217. So that's how we originally connected. And I appreciate you. I appreciate you for seeing something in me. When I said, I was like, I have a YouTube show. You were like, well, can I be on your show? I was like, yeah. And I appreciate just just our communication and just your openness and your motivation, you sharing your testimony, you giving a lot of us giving purpose. And so just before we sign off, I want to go into the our chat box. Let's see. My mom, her story is so amazing. I can't hold back my tears and my praise. Please accept my hug to you. So she's sending you a virtual hug.
Virtual hugs.
My cousin Latoya Watry, she says, the message is our purpose is to be of service to the people. God is pleased when we can share his love. Thank you.
Thank you.
And also Latoya wants to know how she can buy any tees or hoodies or support Hug, Don't Shoot. And if you could close out and let us know, I'll put the website on the screen, which is hugdon'tshoot.org. But please let us know how we could support.
Okay, first of all, thank you again, and thanks for everyone who's watching. First, share your page. That's my goal, is for people to know who you are, because you too also have an amazing story. But as far as Hug, Don't Shoot, if you go to hugdon'tshoot.org, you can send in a donation, monetary donation, PayPal, Cash App. As far as the merchandise, the website will be updated this week. Hometown Hero basically cleaned us out, so we had to restock all the things. You can inbox me and I could talk to you personally on what we have and what we don't have. Today or tonight, I'm actually getting ready to get the order now. We now have baby beds, Hug, Don't Spit, baby boo hug dealer on the baby beds, infant baby beds. As of today, we now have coats for dogs that have hug, don't bark on
When
it.
you said Doug's, okay, yeah, so she's from Baltimore.
We're
When
from
they say
Baltimore,
Doug,
Doug.
Doug is a dog, D-O-G. Just so y'all know, just FYI. Doug.
We're from Baltimore. Yeah, so we have hoodies and we have sweatshirts, we have long sleeve shirts, we have the hats that we have on now, hug dealers and hug don't shoot, fatigue and black. The hats is probably the only thing you will ever see hug don't shoot have in black, because our goal is to be heard and to be seen. So most of our stuff, 98% of our stuff is bright colors and will remain as bright colors so you can see us coming. So you could go to www.hugdon'tshoot.org, Facebook and Instagram. And we are in desperate need of hug dealers. So no matter what city, state, or country you in, you can become a hug dealer. Right now, we're in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, Waco, Texas, New York, New Jersey, Atlanta, and Mississippi.
Thank you so much, Val, Baltimore's hometown hero. We appreciate you, and thank you everyone for tuning in.
Thank you.